You think so?
Your
I
voice
hope
is still
so.
maturing.
Do I feel like a schmuck? I don't think I'm mature. No, 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 no. I don't know what it is, but I've been getting ready for this conversation, and then you know when you have it feels like you're ready for something, and you get anxiety, and
Absolutely.
then you get very
Anxious.
anxious,
Yeah.
and then your body's like, "Why are we anxious?
We all are.
I can't
We
sleep."
will all be waiting for this
Listen, I
moment.
gotta talk to this very accomplished doctor, and I'm so nervous. Is he going to judge me? Do I need to make sure? You know, I was ready to wear shades so he doesn't look in my eyes. I'm telling you, I was so
I
scared.
was thinking about the same
I'm like, I
thing.
need to wear shades so he doesn't like look at me and then be like,
Read you.
I'm here to fix you today. Oh boy, I was so scared. I'm not gonna lie. But guys, let me tell you something before we get started. How you guys doing, ladies? How
We're
are we
doing
doing?
good morning, everyone.
Yeah.
Morning.
How's the rest of the year been so far? I know I keep asking you, but I have to ask. How's been the rest of the year so far?
Mine's is kind of messy right now.
I think it's all of us.
I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, do I move or do I'm looking for a new place.
We've been talking about this for
and
weeks now. Come on.
I don't know what's going on with Columbus, Ohio, but these apartment rooms are getting
They're
smaller
getting
and smaller, but the
smaller,
prices is getting
getting
higher
higher
and
and
higher.
higher. Oh
I was like, if my
boy.
bed don't fit in here, I can't live here.
Do you got one of those like is it California king
Of
size bed?
course I
Oh
do. I'm
man, that take the whole
5'10".
space.
I'm
That
tall.
take the whole space. Oh man.
So
Yeah,
that and
that's tough.
process of a new car
Oh
and
yeah.
just a lot going on.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna get it done. How
Yeah. I
about
think
you,
that's where
babe?
we are. Yeah, that's where we are too. How you feeling?
Listen, I'm constantly
Get it
my
out, girl.
my anxiety is up to the roof, and I'm doing my best to make sure that I use all my emotional intelligence to make the best decisions I can with how my life is transitioning.
Oh.
Okay, I'm making some major changes in
Do
my
you want to
life.
talk about it?
Absolutely. Some major changes in my life, which I'm very happy and excited about.
Okay.
So I'm doing my best to choose wisely and move accordingly.
That's
There you
true.
go.
That's true. I think for me, I'm kind of the same too. I really want a new car,
Mm-hmm.
but I really haven't decided.
It's
So I'm
also
waiting
like,
for
do I want a
fate.
car payment?
Right.
Because
And
I
that,
haven't had one
okay.
in like 8 years.
Yeah, and I don't want to do that neither. So I'm like, tax money. Let me just put this, all of it down and just get a new car that's going to last me as long as it can, so I don't have to do anything after this. So I've been thinking about different things to do. So and also just kind of like refocusing my mind on
Mm-hmm.
certain things, aligning with things that I want and do not want,
Mm-hmm.
aligning with. I'm very like, how do I say it? I'm one of those like I get up in the morning, I meditate, and then I kind of state what I want
For
and
the
how
day.
I want my days to go. So I'm like, okay, this is what I want for the next my goal for the next I feel like my goal for the next few months I've been set.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, okay, God, I'm ready to go. How long do I have to wait?
Yeah.
All right, but let's go ahead and cut to the chase. I'm gonna go ahead and give this presentation, guys. Okay, all right. English is not my first language, but I'm gonna try. And then Doc, he's gonna correct me because I'm gonna make sure I say it right. Okay, so please forgive me, Doc, if I misuse or missay anything, because I know you're going to correct me because I want to make sure you have the utmost respect because of I'm reading your bio and everything you accomplished. I mean, it's unbelievable. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have here today Dr. Noam Shpancer, born and raised in Kibbutz Nachshon, Israel, in Jerusalem. He is currently professor of psychology at Otterbein University in Westerville, Ohio, and a licensed practicing clinical psychologist with the Center of Cognitive and Behavioral Therapy in Columbus, Ohio, specializing in the treatment of anxiety disorders, which I have. Dr. Spencer is also an award winning writer. His work has appeared and been cited in multiple publications in the U.S. and elsewhere. So elsewhere we mean the world has seen his work. So that's he's being modest. So his work is out there, people. It is out there, including the New Yorker, the New York Times, the Guardian of London, HuffPost, and I always read HuffPost. This is amazing. And Vice. I'm about to find your work, Doc. He is the author of 3 novels, of which the international bestseller, The Good Psychology, Holt, was translated in 6 languages. His upcoming nonfiction book, Fool Yourself Less, Principle of Psychological Health, APA books. He's slated for publication in 2025. He has also co-authored with the Israeli director Avi Nesher the screenplay for the movie The Other Story. If you've ever seen the movie, please look it up. And then we'll get some idea on that movie so you guys can definitely check that out. I'm very curious myself. Again, the movie is called The Other Story,
Yes.
which premiered in Toronto Film Festival and was the most successful Israeli movie of 2018 by ticket sales. That's very impressive. Dr. Shpancer is an official blogger for the online magazine Psychology Today. That's big.
Amazing.
Where his popular science blog, Insight Therapy, has been receiving over 1 million unique hits per year since 2010. I had to read that slow. He lives in Ohio. We're going to keep it that short. But, Doc, how are you?
I'm all right. Thank you.
I was trying to do you proud. I'm so impressed.
I'm so impressed.
Oh, my God.
You're impressive, man.
Whew. Doc, you're busy.
Yeah, no, not really.
You're a very busy guy. I know you're being modest. You're a very busy guy.
Well, I like to do creative stuff.
That's good.
In psychology, so.
I feel like, do you still feel like before, just a little parenthesis, do you feel like there's still more you need to accomplish? We were talking about earlier, we talked about your age, which we're not going to reveal yet.
65.
He's proud of
He's
it.
proud of it. What do
I'm
you
65.
mean?
Well, my take is that every age is great if you can make it there,
Okay.
considering the alternative.
Yes.
Oh.
Beautiful. I love
That's a
that.
good way to look at it.
I love that.
I like that.
Doc, we just got started. That's huge.
I love
Do you feel like there's certain things, being your age now, you feel like you haven't accomplished that you want to poke around, or you feel like you've done it all at this point in your life?
Yeah, I'm not a big planner,
Okay.
and I'm not a very ambitious person. I just
Okay.
kind of go with the flow.
I
and
love
whatever
that.
Well, that's very
comes.
interesting compared with what you've accomplished, though.
Well, I really never anticipated that this was going to be my life, and I
Okay.
still can't believe that they pay me because I'm paid to read and write and talk about psychology,
Mhm.
which I would do for free.
Right.
Well, don't let them know that, though.
You know somebody's listening, Doc.
Yeah, I know.
Just cut the budget. He said he'll do it for free.
My father was a farmer for most
Wow.
of his life, and he basically did not consider what I do work.
Interesting.
And I think he had a point. It's I'm enjoying my work,
Yeah.
and I'm enjoying my days. So my plan is to just keep doing what I'm doing for
Right.
as long as
You can.
I can.
Nice.
Beautiful.
I mean, as I read all of your accomplishment, and I'm sure you've traveled for work, Doc, and what has been, I would say, rewarding when you look back just throughout your life? What's been the most rewarding for you?
Well, I love traveling. I've been traveling around the world since I was 17.
Okay, that's
you
impressive.
know.
It's a long time.
So, going places and meeting people and seeing different cultures, that's kind of my hobby.
I love
Nice.
that. Oh, we're gonna get along.
That's a great hobby.
We're gonna get along.
I've taught in Turkey, in
Mhm.
Istanbul. I
Mhm.
taught in Sardinia. I just
Wow.
came back from Kashmir, India,
Wow.
where I taught for a while. I taught in Israel, where my family
Of
is.
course.
So I've been traveling around. That's part of I'm actually, once we're done here, in a few hours, I'm going to be on the plane to London.
Ooh.
What?
Beautiful.
Yeah, we're flying
I
today.
feel so special.
Yes,
I do.
absolutely.
Because if I was you, I'm like, I can't do it today, guys. I'm flying out today.
Yeah, I'm flying out. We're flying to London to visit some friends
Yeah.
and family.
Oh, that's wonderful.
But to your question, I don't know. I just enjoying my life, particularly the creative aspect of it. I'm a creative person, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
So anytime I can be involved in some creative work,
Yeah.
either it's with the writing
Mhm.
or with the teaching
Yeah.
or with the research
Yeah.
Mhm.
or with the clinical work,
Mhm.
which I think is also has a creative component.
Yes.
I'm happy.
I love that.
Good.
You're doing what you love to do, even though Papa probably didn't want that, but here you are, changing the world in your own way,
Yeah.
I like that.
almost, which is I think it's a blessing. That's the way that I'm looking at it. If you really think about it,
Well, you try to be. I think the educational system has problems,
correct.
but it is a part of the solution.
Hmm.
So I believe in education, and I also think that the clinical work
Mm,
is a part of the solution.
Gotcha.
And I like to be on the side of the
Yeah.
solution.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So when you mean clinical, are you stating more on the research part of the clinical, where you spend more time researching and being more creative in the research part, or more of a clinical where you're spending time or understanding?
Well, I work with clients.
Yeah.
So 2 days, my job is, 3 days a week I teach at Otterbein and I do my research. And my research is mostly in child development,
Okay.
and child care.
Okay.
And then 2 days a week I see clients in private practice here in
Okay.
Columbus. And so I combine the different aspects
Yeah.
of this work.
Interesting.
But I enjoy the clinical work is enjoyable, first of all because feeling you're helping
Yeah.
and it's a good feeling.
Mhm.
But also it's a little bit of a inverted travel. When you travel, you go places and you see things and people. When you're at the clinic, the stories come to you.
Mm-hmm.
I meet people who I would never have met
Yeah.
in my regular life,
Mm-hmm.
and they tell me their stories.
Mm,
So it's like a travel in a
Mm.
sense because they take me on a
journey.
journey.
Yeah.
And these are journeys that I wouldn't have access to,
Right.
Yeah.
out there in the world.
Yeah.
But in the clinic,
Yeah.
you see it, and it's very fascinating.
Very interesting. That's very interesting. Very
Nice.
interesting. Has it always been when you travel, people tend to, especially being in the field that you are, where the energy of people are more drawn to you? They just be like, I'm going to this. Like, yeah, so tell me. Even you're enjoying your lunch and people are just drawn to you for some reason. Has it happened? I'm sure it happens constantly for you. Or do you just stop and be like, listen, not today, not right now?
I'm trying to enjoy my
Yeah.
salad.
Yeah.
That's going to be tough.
I have good boundaries.
Okay.
Good.
I leave work at work, and
That's good.
I don't do psychology
Right.
with my friends
Yeah,
and family.
that's good.
I separate the two. But sometimes I go to visit my sister.
Yeah.
She lives in Israel, and
Yeah.
she's like, I have a friend. They're having
Oh,
problems.
boy.
Can you talk
Can
to
you?
them? So
I'm on vacation season.
you
Yeah.
I do some of that.
You just
But-
still have to get involved almost.
But generally, when I'm not in the clinic, I
Yeah.
turn the clinical switch off.
Keys away. I
Good.
love that.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Ladies?
It's wonderful. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much to Audubon University.
Yes.
We appreciate
Thank
you.
you, thank
Very
you, thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much.
We
Yes.
got him in here. Well, I can't believe we got him in here and he has to leave. So for that, Autobine, we appreciate you being able to accommodate to the community. So it's very much appreciated. I mean, we've had some amazing people, and I think this tops it for me.
Absolutely.
It really does. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else, ladies?
I'm just excited
We're ready to really
to
dive
have
into the
you here,
conversation.
Professor.
Call
you
me
know,
Noah.
you were my first psychologist professor when I attended to Audubon University, and I graduated back in 2016. So it has been I'm honored to be one of your students, and I know the amazing amount of work that you have done all these years. And again, thank you for making this happen because I know
Making
your
the
agenda
time.
is so busy all the time. But thank you. But I'm also more excited about the topic that we're going to be discussing today,
Yes.
which is going back to our first episode where we all share our personal experience when it comes to personal
Trauma,
healing our wound traumas. We had in our first episode, all of us share our own opinions, some of the tools that personally we use to be able to cope, and heal. And now having you here, bringing your whole experience and knowledge just to be able to assist and help all our listeners out there who I'm pretty sure, they're also struggling with their own, life situations. And having you here is going to assist them to bring them guidance and the right clarity that they need. So thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I think the first question that I would have, I would say, how do I recognize when my thoughts and are irrational or unhelpful? So like where my thoughts feels a bit vague and irrational and unhelpful, how do I recognize that? That was the first question that I had for
It's a good one because we know that what you think has a tremendous effect on how you feel and what you do.
you.
So imagine a situation where you're in your bedroom, upstairs in your place, and suddenly you hear noise, some noise from the kitchen window area. Now, what will you feel and what would you do? Well, it depends on what? On what you tell yourself. So if you think to yourself, snow fell from the roof, then you turn back and you go to sleep and you feel fine. But if you think to yourself, burglar is at my window, then you get all anxious and you reach for the 911 or something.
Mhm.
So our thoughts, we know this, have a profound impact on our mental state and our behavioral decisions. So it's a good idea to ask a kind of question about thinking correctly. Because if our thoughts are, if we tell ourselves lies, if we tell ourselves stuff that's not true, then we're going to base our behavior and the emotional response on lies. That's not a good way to be. So I would say it's a good idea to get in the habit of thinking about your thinking and trying to tease apart the thoughts that have some evidence to back them up and the thoughts that don't, and kind of clean up your cognitive thinking operation.
Beautiful.
And so this, a lot of my work in therapy is to look at what people tell themselves
Mhm.
and try to find out whether that's an accurate statement to make. And if it's not, let's replace it with a better statement. Because the first thought that comes to your head is not necessarily the right one. The way I look at it is like when you go to buy shoes, you don't buy the first pair that you see. You walk around, you take a few pairs, you compare them on some criteria, right? The value, the brand, the price, the style, the fit, and then you pick the one that's right for you. Well, your brain is a thought store. And instead of picking the first thought that comes to your mind, it's a good idea to shop around and say, okay, maybe this is true, but what else may be true? And generate some alternative thoughts and then compare them on which one would you bet the house on? Which one has evidence to back it up? And tell yourself that, as opposed to just go with the first idea that comes. Now, back to your questions, I would say that thoughts are unhelpful to the extent that they're not based on evidence, that they're not accurate in terms of representing what's going on in the world. Remember, thoughts are mind events, they're not world events. So we want to make sure that our thoughts present well what's actually the reality of the world, to the extent we can. I would say that your thoughts are unhelpful if they continuously distract you from important pursuits. You have important goals and values you want to represent, and your thoughts stand in the way, you want to pay attention. The other thing is if your thoughts are not accompanied by problem solving behavior, if I worry and worry and worry, but I don't do anything,
Right.
that's a sign that you want to pay attention here. Because the worry thoughts appear to us like we're doing something, we're worrying. But actually, worrying is like making payments on a debt you may not owe. And so what we find in research is that when people worry a lot, they actually engage less in problem-solving behavior. So you
Makes
want to pay
sense.
attention. And if you spend a lot of time worrying,
Mm.
as worrying about the house being a mess, but you haven't cleaned in a long time, then your thoughts are not working properly. That's the other.
Wow.
And then you want to look at ruminative repetition. If the thoughts, if you find yourself ruminating on the same thing over and over and over again, you're kind of stuck in a loop. That's usually a sign that there's some unhealthy patterns at work. Take a look at.
And that kind of goes into like what my next question would be, like trauma, nervous systems when it comes to like your thoughts and like you said, you're worrying that can cause you to be stressed and things of that nature. How can someone work to regulate that over time?
Well, first of all, if you're talking about trauma, we want to make some distinctions. So the first important distinction, I think, is that not every hurt is trauma. We don't want to define trauma down too much, because that cheapens the impact of actual trauma. So not every disappointment is trauma.
Right.
Some of it is just life.
Right.
But generally speaking, when you're dealing with trauma, what happens when people actually suffer trauma is sort of two things. On a physiological level, nervous system level, your fight or flight system, essentially the on switch doesn't turn off. So we all have in our nervous system an on and off switch, two parts of the nervous system. One, it excites you to get ready to deal with the problem, and the other brings you back down, relaxes you so you can go on with your business. And those tend to work day-to-day life. There's a big event, you get up for it, do your thing, and then
like
you
we
come
were today,
down.
we're all like,
Yeah. And then we're done, and you come back.
Exactly.
People who suffer trauma, post-traumatic effects, saying the adverse effects of trauma, the on switch is stuck, so they can never relax. Yeah, the fight or flight system is always looking for danger. So that physiology of constant arousal is a big part of post-traumatic stress disorder. Psychologically, what happens is that if you never suffered the effects of trauma and trauma-related disorder, your core assumptions about the world and yourself are basically positive. You're telling yourself, the world is fairly safe, manageable, and I can take care of business. That's why you're here today. I mean, if you didn't think you could take care of business and this is safe, you wouldn't come here. So all of us, if we haven't been traumatized, we have a core assumption. The world is fairly safe and I can take care of business. People who suffer post-traumatic disorder, those core assumptions switch. And now the world is dangerous and I can't cope. I'm helpless.
Can't survive.
So physiologically and psychologically, these are the adverse effect of trauma that you see in post-traumatic stress disorder. I want to make a point that most people are resilient. Resilience is our default mode. So you don't want to assume that anytime you encounter an adverse event, you're going to suffer a disorder. Most people will recover. Some people won't. And for them, those core assumptions switch and the system, the alert system is on all the time. Now you have to treat it. And, the treatment, part of it is when you get help with these kind of things, you get someone who works with you.
Someone like you?
Someone like me. Yeah. So that's part of what I do. So one thing you get is someone to help you co-regulate the emotions. When we are injured, we need some help. Someone, if leg is broken, I need to lean on someone.
Yeah.
It's the same psychologically. If someone is with you, working with you through these your symptoms and your feelings and your they help you to co-regulate the emotions, and so you learn with the help of someone this way. Just like, when you have a child, when they're young, you help them manage disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
You encourage them and you hug them, and then they learn to manage disappointment themselves.
Nice.
So there's some of co-regulation that happens in therapy that's helpful with trauma. And the other piece is you want to face your fear.
Mm.
And we can talk more about it later, but generally, when we suffer trauma, our initial reaction is to avoid. Because nobody likes discomfort and pain. So
Yeah.
if this is painful, I'm going to avoid it. But avoidance works in the short term.
Mm-hmm.
But in the long term, it becomes a bigger problem than whatever problem you're avoiding. Because avoidance doesn't teach you anything except to avoid more.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say this room makes me uncomfortable, so I'm not going to come to this room. But after a while, I'm like, this whole building reminds me of this room. So I'm not going to come to it. And after a while, this whole campus reminds me of this building. So you end up in a prison of your own avoidance and live. So getting back to health with trauma always involves a process of facing your fear. And through that process, there are certain mechanisms that work physiologically and psychologically to help you be able to be out there in the world without experiencing.
Awesome. Thank you.
I am.
You want to go?
I am again. Thank you so much for making this happen, Professor. I
I feel
appreciate
like I'm
it.
kind of getting like somewhat of a therapy
Yes,
session.
absolutely.
But
We all are.
But I'm not.
Well, one of my questions are probably, what strategies can I use, to manage setbacks or triggers outside of therapy? What are some of the tools that probably you can
Okay.
recommend to anyone out there?
Okay. The first thing I would say is to treat yourself with compassion. This is something that's important because many people who face problems, issues, failures, we have a tendency to beat ourselves up.
Yes.
Like, I'm an idiot, I'm stupid.
Yes.
And the reason we do it is because we think that if I punish myself for making this mistake or failing, then I won't do it again, which is an understandable logic, but it's false in terms of human psychology. And the reason is we nurture what we value. We protect what we value. Now, if you beat yourself up and call yourself stupid, or idiot, weak, you devalue yourself. Now, if you have no value, then you lose the incentive to protect and nurture yourself. So now it's a vicious cycle downwards. What you want to do is to treat yourself with self-compassion, which is treat yourself like you would treat a child or the elderly parent that you care about and you're charged with caring for. So if your kid tries to ride a bike and fall down, you're not going to slap them upside the head, call them stupid, and think you're helping them.
Right.
And come with encouragement. Let's learn from it. Figure it out. I'm here for you. It's not easy. Let's do it. Well, we'll get back to it. You'll figure it out. It's okay. People generally grow and become stronger from love, encouragement, and support.
Yes.
They don't grow from hate. And this is true for others, and it's true for you too, your people. So you want to treat yourself with encouragement and compassion and kindness. That's the first move.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to specific techniques, there are a few I can run by you. So, for example, there's a nice simple technique that's called cognitive distancing, and this is basically when you are in emotional turmoil and you need to decide what to do. Talk to yourself in the third person.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh, I do that.
instead of saying, "Oh, what should I do here?" say, "What is the right thing for Noam here
Yeah.
to do?" And the reason it works, and there's good research on it, and the reason it works is because you know how it is easy to give advice to others.
But you
No,
don't
no,
take
not
it
to
yourself.
yourself.
Yeah.
I like that.
Now,
I do that all the time.
why is it? Why is it easy? Because when you give advice to others, you're not emotionally involved.
Attached
Yeah.
to
You
it.
have a distance,
Mm-hmm.
and that distance allows you to see things clearly.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if I put my hand here, I don't see anything. Put it here, I can see.
Mm-hmm.
So when you speak to yourself in a third person, what should Noam do here? You distance yourself from the emotion piece,
Mhm.
and you activate your problem solving, and you can come up with the right decision.
I'm about to
That's
speak in
wonderful.
third person every day.
So this is
Oh,
one thing to do. The other thing to do is that's useful is if you find yourself in a situation where you are, in some turmoil and you're feeling confused, or weak, or not on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
You want to remember um, moments of competence
Mhm.
in your life. So, so you don't go to some abstract self-esteem thing like I'm a good person or this. That's less effective. More effective is to say, let me remember a time when I dealt with something like this well.
Gotcha.
Let me remember a time when I overcame.
I
Let me
like that.
remember a time where I picked it up and figured it out.
I
Mhm.
like that.
And you run these through your brain,
Brain.
and that strengthens you in the moment.
I like that because I use unconsciously without knowing. I use that term sometimes. I used to compete for a very long time, and every time I had no motivation, no desire to do anything, I always play back in memory where I did something and I did great.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was capable of doing it
Then I could do it now.
this way. And during that time, I'm capable of doing it now. And that definitely helped with you to push through. So,
And
yeah.
I would add another important piece to it, and that is the relationship piece.
Mhm.
Is always important for human beings. We are a herd animal. We only survive and thrive in relationship.
Hmm.
Nobody survives and thrives in isolation alone.
Mhm.
That's true.
So when you're down, activating your support
Hmm.
is super important. Reaching out to people you trust
Mhm.
and care about you, know you, and communicating, not going alone.
Not
That's
isolating
me.
yourself in a room.
That's me
You
right there.
isolate.
Yeah, that's
And you
definitely me.
too.
I do.
Oh, because as I'm listening and I'm throwing like this picture of myself. It's
Yeah.
like, you're watching a movie and you're like, oh yeah, I've done this, and I've done that, and I'm like, oh, I've done this better. Human intelligence, I've used my human intelligence. And then I'm hearing my own strength talk to me about all this stuff, and I'm like, oh gosh, I've been here before. Because I tend to do that where when I go, this is just personally speaking for myself. I know it's not a therapy session. What I do for me personally is that when I go through more where I have a lot of anxiety, my way of speaking to the third person, it's moving back and saying, why is this bothering me as a third person? Okay, this is bothering me. Why? Okay, how do I, not me, but it's more like, Kai, why is this affecting you?
Mhm.
Why do you feel this way? And then I use my emotional intelligence to be like, okay, this is affecting us this way. How do we fix it? So how are we going to make sure that it's good for us? So I appreciate you bringing that up, especially as a third person, not speaking for yourself, because I also feel like when you say about yourself, it doesn't really help.
Yeah.
No.
So
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
lets me
Hear
know,
it from
okay,
someone else.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's really amazing to see because, like I said, how do you? My question, it's got. I wrote this question because personally, it's to myself also. What is the safest way to process Um, I'm gonna get emotional. What is the safest way to process past trauma? What do you think should be? Because I'm looking at my own image as a young kid and everything that I went through. I mean, I'm in a better place now, of course, because I can have. I always tell my wife like, hey, I can have this conversation because I've passed that. Because if I'm not having this conversation, it means they're still hunting me. But I'm in a way now where I feel like one thing she might say might trigger me a little bit, and then I go back to my past. What do you think will be the safest way to deal with that?
Well, actually, you pointed to an interesting idea, and I think it's true. And that, how do you know that your relationship with your history is healthy? Well, what you alluded to is one way to know is you can't speak about something, or if you can't stop speaking about something. Those are two signs that there's a problem. Health is found in the flexibility of being able, I can talk about these events when the time is right. Right. And I can shut up about them when the time is right.
Beautiful.
That's like, a car that can only go 65 is not a good car. Not because there's something wrong with 65, but because life requires sometimes they go fast,
No,
sometimes they go slow.
Yeah.
So flexibility is a sign of health here. So you, in evaluating yourself, you say, if someone asks me and I want to talk about it, I can. But I don't have to tell every stranger about myself.
Right.
Then you're healthy.
Okay.
So and the other thing you alluded to is the way to deal with trauma is always the way out is through. That's generally the rule. To deal with it, you have to approach it, process it, and understand it, and bring the traumatic memories and events and make them part of your coherent story of yourself. That's how we do it. And again, avoidance creates problems in the long term. It's not a solution. Solution is to face it and to reorganize your understanding. Because think about it this way: if something happened to you when you were little, your understanding of it is from the eyes of a little boy. And if you don't go back there and process it through the eyes of an adult with the knowledge you have, the maturity you have, the tools you have, then every time something reminds you of this event, your reaction is going to be the reaction of a 3-year-old or 4-year-old. And that's an inappropriate reaction. So when it comes to trauma, you always have to face it. And you always have to work through it, to process it. That's really important. Now, this can be done in therapy. It can be done with the help of
which
others.
I did major work. Yeah.
Yes, that's very important. Yes. And it can be done also in the context of support groups and other things. But the principle of managing for the long haul, because life is long term, you want long term solutions.
Of course.
Is that you have to go towards it, which is counterintuitive, of course, because we don't like to go towards discomfort.
You want to go away.
But the example I give is, let's assume you're in your house and you hear a rat in the basement. And let's say you don't like rats.
Oh.
So what are you going to do? Well, your intuitive thing is, who wants to deal with that? Let me close.
You read my mind.
Let me close the door.
Let me close the door, and I'll just walk away into the living room, and life is good.
Yeah.
Yes. In the short term.
You still got a rat in your basement.
No. Well, that's only the beginning of it. Problem now is 3 weeks later.
There's like 10.
There's 100 rats.
Should just took care of the one.
Now, hold on 1 second. It's important to realize that, the word rat will not bite you.
No.
You're okay. You're safe here. But you see the
I
problem.
wish you said chocolate, Doc. I wish you said chocolate, but go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
You see the problem
Yeah.
with your strategy.
Mhm.
So avoidance feels good in the short term. It's
Yeah.
relief, but in the long term, it becomes a problem. So what should you do about the rat issue? You have to go in the basement.
You gotta take care of it.
And you have to, instead of, now hear me out,
Okay.
instead of taking a mindset of rat prey, you're going to be a rat hunter. You're not going to be a victim of the rat and the fear of rat. You're going to hunt it down. You're going to go in a basement, going to face your fear, deal with the rat, and then you can go and live your life in your house. And
Peacefully.
I
Without
like
hundreds
that.
of rats.
Hunt the rats.
Oh, okay.
So there's a mindset change.
Mhm.
When you deal with trauma, there's a mindset change, and it's true for anxiety in general. If you're afraid of your fear, if you're afraid of your feelings, if you're afraid of what's going on in your body, you're gonna be avoiding and ending up avoiding life, and the fear become bigger, and you become weaker. You change your mindset, and I'm gonna hunt this down. I'm gonna go to where the fear is. I'm gonna learn to manage that territory. I'm gonna clean up the mess that there is. And I'm gonna figure this out. And I'm gonna learn the skills of managing rat problems. That's when you build yourself a healthy life.
I like that. And I like the metaphor he used
Yeah.
with the rat.
Just thinking about what other rats I need to pay
That part.
attention on
Like,
right
what
now, so
what
I
am I about to go hunt down?
I just have one more snakes. Now I got to figure out the snake thing, Doc. I already got the rock figure out. Now it's snakes. Once I figure out the snake, I think we're good to go. I think
It's
I should be good
spiders.
after that. Yeah, I don't know what it is with snakes. It's like
I don't like snakes either.
I can't do it, Doc.
Well,
That's my biggest fear, especially when I have like dreams about them. Oh man,
Well,
I wake up shaking. It's insane.
Well, fear of snakes is genetic. It's common all around the world. And the reason is because our ancestors, who by their genetic luck were acquired the fear of creepy crawlies quickly, guess what? They survived.
Yeah.
And had sex and had babies. And
then-
those genes spread.
Turns into us, and
So
now we're
all of
scared of
us-
snakes.
I'm good. I'm happy I'm not alone in this snake story.
Oh no, it's a very common fear around the world.
That's very interesting.
I used to have snakes dreams
That's
that they were
very
biting my
interesting.
feet.
Yeah.
Like ever since I was 5. And then
Very interesting.
my brother's little tangent story about snakes. My brother had a snake, a real one.
Oh no.
And he would like purposely put it in my bed.
Yeah, that's nuts.
And like I thought I was dreaming it, but it was really happening. Yeah.
Okay, we did.
Well,
can we just stop?
So that enhanced my fear of snakes.
I'm going to maybe surprise you here because I in my practice I see a lot of people who have phobias, like a snake.
Yeah.
And most phobias are strongly genetic.
Yeah.
They have to do with stuff that
Happened.
saved our
Yeah.
ancestors and spread to us.
Mm.
But the way you work with a phobia is aligned with what we've been discussing here with trauma, which is you have to face it. The way out is through. And then you ask me, okay, so let's assume you're afraid of snake. And you come to me for treatment. And I tell you, in order to get over your fear, you're going to have to handle a snake. Now, you're going to think there's no way in hell I'll ever do it.
You just saying it made my palms
I
sweat.
know, I know, and that's good. That's a good thing in terms of therapy. We want that because here's the thing: most people don't know how fear works, so they think I'm afraid of this. Let's say this is a snake. I'm afraid of a snake. So when a snake is near me, my fear goes up, and I feel like it's going to continue to go up until my head will explode. So I run out, and then my fear goes down. Problem is that this is not how fear really works. You just don't know because you never gave yourself a chance to stay with your fear for long enough. You always run out. The way fear works is, like I said, we have two systems, part of a nervous system. One gets you up, one brings you down.
Yeah.
You stay in a feared situation for long enough, your relaxation system will kick in. So your fear goes up. And let's say I tell you you can't run out. You stay with the snake. Your fear will go out a little more, but then it will level off. And then it will come down. We call this habituation. It's a process that you're born with. Everyone has it. That if you expose the nervous system to something again and again, it reduces its activity. Since anxiety depends on activation of the nervous system, when the nervous system comes down, you can't feel anxious. So if you let me have a snake here, and you trust me enough that you're not running away, and you're letting yourself feel scared, after a while, your fear will level off, and then it will come down, and you will sit here with the snake and you will be bored. And then we repeat that until the presence of a snake no longer does that to you. And that's a big part of therapy for phobias. And I see it all the time. I tell my clients, so my client comes in and says, I'm afraid of an elevator. I haven't stepped in an elevator for 20 years. And I say, within a few months, you're going to ride the elevator and you won't feel anything. And they're like, there's no way in hell that this will ever happen. And I'm like, okay, you want to bet your house? Well, I can't say that.
Well, yeah, of course.
But
I want to
But
face
what-
my snake fear. My snake fear. Going to a pet store.
But what you see, what you see happen is when it happens to people, they don't believe what's happening to them.
Right.
So I say, let's go in the elevator, and we're going to ride it for 5 hours straight. And we start, and in the beginning, the anxiety is here, but habituation is going to kick in. It's just a matter of time, and before long, suddenly, right? And then, fine, and it's like a secular miracle. It's like something from that. They don't believe what's happening to them because it's counterintuitive. But this is how we're wired. So it's not the only mechanism at play. So the habituation is one mechanism that helps facing your fear, eliminate it. There's other mechanisms. There's a mechanism called inhibitory learning, which is you have all kind of predictions about what will happen when you sit with a snake. If I get you to sit with a snake, those predictions will prove false. And you will be creating different associations with the snake than you had before. And the way that process works is a little bit like the new understanding and association doesn't get rid of the old fear, but it takes over from it. So it's like the party of courage wins the election. It doesn't mean there's no fear, but the fear is not at the wheel. You know what I'm saying? It's like an election in a country. If we elect a non-racist government, it doesn't eliminate racism.
Right.
But at least the racists are not
Controlling the government.
And that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So when you face your fear, the new ideas and new understandings take over the wheel, and they run your life. And the fear no longer runs your life. That's the second process. And then when you face your fear, there's also a skill acquisition process. So, avoidance only teaches you to avoid. But life requires skills. So when you go to the place of the fear and you hang there, you learn how to manage fear, to deal with the feeling, with the thinking, with the environment, with the thing. You acquire skill. And once you become skilled, there's less reason to be afraid because you know what to do. And the last piece is the empowerment piece. So psychologically, let's assume you're afraid of snakes. I show you a snake. You run out. You feel better after you run out, but you don't feel better about yourself because the fear won and you lost. So you're weak and the fear. So now the fear controls your life.
Yep.
You're
You
not a
gave the
free
fear
man.
the power.
You're not a free man. That's not a good feeling because the fear dictates where you go, not
Yeah.
you. So you're not a free. Now, if I can get you to sit here with the snake, you're going to sweat it out. But after 2 hours, as habituation, you're going to be okay. And then we say, let's go home, and you walk out, you'll be exhausted. But you're going to feel good about yourself because you're stronger than you thought. So you sat here, you survived, still okay. So now the fear is gone down and you are strengthened, empowering yourself.
Beautiful.
That's why facing problem is the solution.
Beautiful. And that applies with everything. Okay?
Right,
We
that
can
part.
say that, right? Facing our traumas
And our fears.
and our
Yes,
fears.
Yes. And I would, this is always the needed action, is to face the challenge. You know, and it's true, life is hard.
Right.
Not every problem can be solved if it's faced, but no problem is ever solved that's not faced.
Right.
So this is generally true. There's an exception. If you want to go a little bit left field here, the exception to this rule of facing is temptation. So temptation
Oh boy.
needs to be avoided
Mm.
because if you think I'm going to use my willpower to, you know, there's a candy. I don't want to eat candy. There's candy right in front of me. And I'm going to use my willpower to not touch the candy. You're fooling yourself. The way to deal with temptation is to not to rely on willpower and facing it, but to engineer an environment where you don't have to encounter it all the time. So if I want to lessen my coffee consumption, I better find a route from home to work that doesn't go by the coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? If you want to eat less candy, get candy out of your house.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to temptation that you want to resist, your best move is to figure out a way to structure the environment so you don't encounter it all the time. Because if you temptation is here, you're going to succumb. It's a matter of time.
Wow. Beautiful. All right. We almost
We're almost
getting to
that
the
end.
closing of this amazing episode.
I have to go to London.
I know you almost have to go.
Miss my plane.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I mean,
Guys,
I
before
don't
we-
really have any other questions because I know we're getting
Michelle.
ready to close. Any final
I
question?
guess this will be a good question to
Yeah.
ask towards the end.
Mhm.
What misconceptions can you give? Let me start over. What are some misconceptions people have about trauma and healing that you'll like to debunk? Like that's not a thing, or
Address. Yeah.
Okay. A good one. The first one is that human beings are fragile as opposed to resilient.
Mhm.
It's a myth. We know from research on children and adults and people who have gone through adversity that the default mode for human being is strength, resilience. Most people who go through difficult times will come out okay,
yeah,
will bounce back,
yeah,
will return to functioning. It's a very important truth to remember because I think people often have the mistaken idea that any kind of hardship is going to throw me off permanently. That's not true.